Hello ladies and gentlemen, Kage here. This is going to be something of a small update video, probably won't be too terribly long. I mainly want to do this out of panic in case something goes wrong, and at least you guys have something to let you know what's going on. It seems I've ran into a little snag, and I definitely panicked, as I could not get my recording software, DxStory, to see Diablo at all. After a bit of testing, found out it also couldn't record from Final Fantasy, and that just kind of bothered me a bit. Found out it could record some other games from Steam. Tabletop Simulator and Transistor were definitely getting me proper recordings, which is good since I just recently recorded a Hero Quest session, and it would have sucked if I couldn't. But yeah, I have ran through some trial and error reinstalling the program. Nothing really seemed to take. Ultimately, I tried to do one of their install with the most recent DxStory that wasn't stable, and I used its install cleanup. In hindsight, I should have realized that a clean install of any form, even if it just says cleanup, means it's also going to take away settings. So I lost all of my settings for DxStory, and I've attempted to recover everything. I've had to re-download some codecs, get everything back up and running, and I think I'm mostly okay. Everything seems to be running fine, smooth. DxStory is now picking up the programs that it should be. Things are still a little weird, like I feel my screen's a little darker, and I'm having a problem in Final Fantasy that I didn't have before. I had a problem with the benchmark where it would not record 60 frames per second properly. It was having an issue with the encoding for some reason. But when the main game came out, when Stormblood's expansion actually came out, it wasn't a problem. Now all of a sudden I'm having the problem with the main game after reinstalling DxStory. I don't know why. It has something to do with the game, I think, being in full screen, and I have to force the 1080 recording instead. It's really weird. There shouldn't be a bottleneck. My machine should be powerful enough to handle it, but something about Final Fantasy is causing a problem. But anyway, that's a lot of yammering. I wanted to let you guys know, in case you don't hear from me for a bit, it's probably because I ran into more problems. And I will tell you that trying to get all of this set up on Windows 10 is a pain in the ass. Windows 10 is just terrible for video recording because it tried to implement its own settings and whatnot. But enough about that. Let's go ahead and take a look at where I'm at. This is kind of a different video just because, well, I'm already at 70, right? We've talked about the skills and all that, so the only thing really to talk about is gear. Now, I have completed my 6-piece set for the Bones of Rathma set. This is, you would think, a set based around bone and possibly like the Bone Spear or Bone Lances or something, but this is actually the Summoning set, which gives your minions a chance to reduce the cooldown of Army of the Dead by 1 second each time they do damage. I gain 1% damage reduction for 15 seconds each time they attack for max of 50% damage reduction. And lastly, and this is the part that gives it all its power, is each skeletal mage increases the damage of your minions and Army of the Dead by 625%, up to a max of 2,500. Doing the math, that's about 4 skeletons, 4 skeletal mages that I need for that. Now, I didn't have the full 6-piece set for a while. It's a fairly recent acquisition, but it's been doing me well. That's why I have the build that I have here. Siphon Blood with Power Shift has been my primary generator, as well as being a decent damage dealer before I had the set completed, as you can see by me using the version that increases its damage. I was using Skeletal Archer to increase the attack speed of my minions in order to improve the cooldown reduction on Army of the Dead. I've been using Revive to do the same. Personal Army also reduces the damage I take, so my survivability is coming from that. My Command Skeleton's Frenzy, again, increase the attack speed in order to decrease the cooldown on Army of the Dead. Frailty, which I picked the one that allows my minions to do 15% more damage, basically, if I'm working on minions. And then Army of the Dead, I went with this one, which is the 50,000 over 4. It seemed to do the most damage of any of the Army of the Dead versions. So I decided to go ahead and go with that. Not only that, but this ability is what's going to help me do single target damage. With this build, you usually do a lot of area damage because your minions are usually all over the place. And it seemed like I didn't have a really big nuke, and this is my response to that. So my minions will reduce the cooldown of it and get it going. So I've got Extended Servitude, which really helps with this build. And I went with Aberrant Animator, I haven't changed this yet. I was experimenting with some thorns. I had actually gotten a piece of armor. I can actually show it off in the cube, I believe. I had gotten armor that had increased my thorns based on my vitality, so 300% of my vitality. I put that on along with, not the Bane of the Powerful, but this, Borshiowski's Chip, which did additional thorns damage. And I tried that out for a bit. It seemed to actually hit pretty hard. I did that mainly because I was a little bit, I was doubtful and critical of this skill when we talked about it before. I also got Spreading Malediction for additional damage when I've cursed things. So those have been helpful. I do also have the Ghastly Tribute because of my Hellfire Amulet. So I get life on hit from my minions, and that's definitely keeping me alive. So if you're wondering, I have a level 23 Bane of the Powerful, and I am also, of course, using Enforcer for my pets. I do have some pretty nice weapons that I've... this one's fairly recent. Siphon Blood will drain blood from 2 additional targets, so now I'm doing additional damage with that. But this I've had for a bit, and it's been pretty cool, and that's attacking with Siphon Blood has a 49% chance to cast a free Blood Nova, and it is frequent. I mean, I don't even have to have a target, and you can see I'm just constantly splashing out Blood Nova. So I like these items, and they've given me a nice additional boost of damage. And to help that along, I went ahead and put on some Death Diggers to increase the damage of my primary skills. I also have this Bloodtide Blade, which I'm going to do a little bit of testing with you guys here in just a moment. And I do happen to have a Unity. I did manage to find 2 Unities, and I put one on my follower. I haven't gemmed her out yet. But I want to test out this additional damage on this Nova. So let's dismiss her. I've got numbers turned on. We're just going to go somewhere safe, maybe in Act 1. We'll just go maybe to Royal Crypts. No. What's the best place? We'll just go to the chapel. Well, that's Wortham. See, I'm being silly. I'm trying to rush along, and I'm not thinking clearly. We'll go to the old ruins. Okay, so we'll test this, and it is the... Oh. Alright. Quick cut there because I was being silly. So I've got this blade that increases the damage of my Nova. I'm going to go ahead and take that off for now. Can I just clear it? Wow, you can't just... I never realized that you can't just clear a... can't just make that empty? Wow, okay, you can't. Alright, well, I'll just put on that spear. So we're going to give this a quick test and see what kind of damage this Nova does. So I'm going to intentionally miss my targets, see what kind of damage it does, and then we'll test it with that to make sure that these free Novas I'm getting are actually increased. Oh, these guys are hitting really hard. Wow, I didn't even realize I had a sash of knives. $800, $900K. Actually, let's take that off and just be safe.
I need healing.
Yep, 600-700K. All right, that works. Yeah, without my pets, that's kind of hurting. So we will try it now, and it should get so 30% increased damage. Oh yeah, okay. So yeah, that I wanted to test. By the way, if you want to see what it looks like when it's draining multiple targets, you can see that it looks like it hits the first target and then it will start draining from 2 additional targets. So it's almost like it gives it like a chain lightning effect, which is pretty cool. I wasn't sure at first how it spread, but that's pretty nice. So it's nice to know that works. One of the main reasons I was curious about that is because of the description here. This, of course, says Death Nova, which is any of the Nova spells. But you'll notice that the this explicitly gives you Blood Nova, which is a rune of Death Nova. So I wanted to be sure that they played together like they should. And they do. And that's good to know. So let's go ahead and get my Frenzy back, and I can very quickly kind of show off a bit of this, which I think is pretty cool. So let me see, did I get anything else that you need to know about? Not really quite yet. I do have some Nemesis bracers, that's about it. I've got a focus but no restraint. I need to build up some of these gems, as I haven't even gotten the Slayer yet, which requires me to level 30 solo, but it requires me to get a 25 gem. So with this set, I'll just show it off real quick in case you'd like to see the gameplay. I think it works out pretty well. The only downside being the set increases the damage of your minions, so you really don't have a lot of direct damage. So you'll see I'm not really killing too quickly here, but the moment I get 4 of those out, you'll start to see the damage really increase. And again, I pick these skeletal archers because they increase my attack speed, so it's very easy to quickly gain my essence back. And it also increases the amount of attacks that the archers themselves get, which increases their attack speed, yada yada yada. And then of course I can proc the Army of the Dead. And you can kind of see if I use Frenzy on my skeletons, you can just kind of see how quickly that cooldown will start to come back. It happens even more when there's a larger group around me. So I really like the way this is playing out so far. Again, you don't really have a lot of control over the primary damage, but that's what the skeletons really are for. You basically take the skeletons and you empower them and have them be your focus damage, right? Because you can have them focus any one target you want quite a bit. Now, due to my where is it? Due to my not malediction, but the one I'm getting for free, actually. Grisly Tribute. 10% of my life on hit whenever my minions hit an enemy. I have found that my survivability really changes whether or not my skeletons are in frenzy or not. They hit so fast when they're in frenzy mode that I have seen where I would go from a situation where I was dying in combat to where I was very quickly regaining health. All because I just pushed that button and I had forgotten to push it before. Downside here, of course, is that it does take quite a bit of essence to get the skeletons, but as you see with my increased attack speed and the drain on this, I get them back up pretty quick. And you can kind of see just how fast the cooldown is going there. I just used my Frenzy, and you can see the cooldown on Army of the Dead is really speeding up there, and I can just use it again. Awesome stuff. I'm really liking it. So that is pretty much what I've been working with. I do like this set. I do kind of miss doing things with Corpse Explosion. I think using Revive really is the better option for this set, although I have some options in the way I want to build, and one of them is going to be to use my golems. And because I have here Golemskin Breeches, my golems damage will be increased by 100%, and that actually rolled low, but that's still not bad. And I would take 30% less damage while it's alive. So I'd have even more survivability, and my golems would be doing additional damage, because he would be doing not only double damage from these, but you have to remember also the 2,500. So those would stack, and he would be hitting really hard. So I would need to get rid of something for that. I'm not quite sure what. I could replace the skeletons, but the skeletons allow me to focus, and again, their attack speed really helps. So I may end up getting rid of Revive for this. It would help on bosses for sure, because with bosses and big creatures, sometimes you don't always have a lot of bodies around to work with. So it would certainly help with that. But again, it will also help with survivability. But that's I think, honestly, Revive will be the biggest change there, because you don't want to get rid of Frailty. That's what increases your damage. It also makes the monsters die a lot quicker. Army of the Dead obviously works. It's the 2-step bonus. You'll need that. I could get rid of a primary. Can't get rid of the Skeleton Mages, though, as, again, they work with the set. So pretty much I'm locked to Army of the Dead. I'm locked to Skeletal Mage, and, of course, Frailty. So that's like 4 things if I have a primary. So it would have to be either the... Well, I guess it would just have to be Revive. Now, beyond that, there is something I want to test here with you guys, too, is I found these wonderful items, or at least this scythe, literally before I started recording. The Cursed Scythe rune for Grim Scythe now will 100% chance to apply a curse. So we'll always apply a curse on each hit. And it also does 165% increased damage to enemies who are cursed. Now that would allow me to put the golem on without keeping Frailty. Although, I don't believe it would give me the 15% increased damage on minions, so I might still keep that. But that would also stack with this Legger's Disdain. Grim Scythe deals an additional 7% damage for each point of essence it restores. That's pretty powerful if we take a look at Grim Scythe. We can see that it does 12 essence per enemy hit. It starts at 150. 12 essence just hitting one enemy for 7% is going to give you about 70% more. So you're going to go from your 150 to pretty much over 200, which is not too much worse than Blood Siphon, and that's just hitting one target. So I could get in there and hit multiple targets, and we can see what kind of damage this does. I will, of course, have to socket it, as it's not socketed yet, and if it does get a socket, it will be a nice increase. It does have some cooldown reduction, which I may want to keep. I'm not certain on that. That is quite nice, but the damage component is a little more important to me right now. Alright, so I've got it set up. We're going to give it a try, just see how powerful it is. We've got the Corroded Fang, which will now guarantee the curse. We've put on the Cursed Scythe rune, so that 15% chance is now 100% chance. Haven't really made any other changes. I just put that on, and I put on this one here, which increases the damage of the scythe itself. Since I'm no longer using Siphon, I'll be really interested to see how this works. Now, I am still using the Depth Diggers. At some point, what I would like to do is I need a Royal Ring of Grandeur. Haven't gotten one yet, and then I could put on these pants, and then I could keep the Depth Diggers. Now, I basically have 2 options. Either I get rid of the Depth Diggers and put on the pants, which just really pushes me more into minion mode, or I keep it the way it is now, which gives me a little more damage on my primary. And again, if I can get a Royal Ring of Grandeur, I could probably have both. I would lose my Unity here, or my Focus, really, until I find a Restraint. And even then, my Hellfire Amulet is really useful for this build, so I might just equip the ring. I don't know. But we're going to go back in. We're going to see what kind of damage we're doing. Assuming I can click the damn portal. Alright, here we go. Let's see how good this is. Whoa, they just exploded, didn't they? The damage seems okay, but one thing I definitely have a little bit of concern with here is survivability. I like the scythe. I think it's pretty cool. I like getting up close and personal. But I think with this build, I'm really supposed to be letting the minions do the work. And with that, that means I should probably be keeping my distance. And I also need to make sure I'm constantly putting my skeletons up, which I'm not really doing right now. Now, it could change if I got the golem instead of revive, because then I'll have fewer minions with me. And then what I could actually do is use stand alone. So standalone gives you more armor, the fewer minions you have out. which this seems like it would probably be more, gravitate more towards, since you have to get up close, because yeah, right there, I'm not used to being up close, so I wasn't quite paying attention to that like I should have been. The damage is pretty good, but the survivability has dropped due to the fact that I'm not constantly draining life. So I don't like this as it is right now. I would definitely need to increase my survivability. I would have to get standalone for additional armor, get rid of the skeletons maybe. It's a decent thought, but I think I want to keep the Siphon Life. Now, as to whether or not I keep the Depth Diggers, I'm not 100% sure on that. It really feels like doing something like that, where I'm using the Depth Diggers and increasing the damage of my primary skill, would probably be better suited to that set that increases your power based on how many Ancient Legendaries you have. So you're not actually building on a 6-piece set bonus, you're just building on something else. It's just unfortunate that double damage from Depth Diggers as well as a 300% primary just doesn't do the damage. Because you're doing so much more damage, 2,500 more damage on your minions. But I think it would be a cool build to explore if I ever could get the items. Unfortunately, I'm playing pretty casually. It's really difficult for me to get the items to build that Ancient Legendary set. You know, I forget what the items are. I'm sure many of you have used it before, but it's literally when you're only wearing that set, which I think is a pair of rings. Every Ancient Legendary you have that is not a set piece increases your damage by quite a bit. So I might get rid of the Depth Diggers, and I may just put those pants on. Put the pants into the cube, instead of trying to do the Depth Diggers and that. Although if I could do both, if I got a Ring of Grandeur and I did both, I would have the best of both worlds. I have a little more damage on my primary, not as much as my 6-piece is doing, but I would have some damage, and I would be able to make it work. I'm going to try and build up some of these other sets. For those curious, I have 3 pieces of the Inarius set. This is a nice shining set that works off of bone armor, which increases the damage of bone armor, then also gives bone armor additional 2% damage reduction per enemy hit. So with 10 enemies, that's like 20%, I think. And then bone armor will also activate a swirling tornado of bone, damaging nearby enemies for 750% weapon damage, and increasing the damage they take from the Necromancer by 2,750. So that's an interesting set from the looks of it. It's not really built around anything other than bone armor. It's kind of a shame because the armor, you know, it looks like it's kind of nice and shiny, but whenever you use bone armor, you only ever see the bone armor. So it kind of removes your aesthetics. But it looks like you could make this one build with almost anything. Like, this set might actually work well with the Scythe and a Phylactery combo that I'm using right now. Because you get up close, you're doing bone armor, you're doing your personal damage is up there. That might work. Throw it in with a couple of secondary, or like at least a secondary skill that hits fairly hard, maybe not the mages. Lastly, there's Trag'oul's Avatar. I believe there are a total of, is it 4 or 5 sets? So I've got 1 set completed and 2 other sets in the works. I've only got 2 of this one. I haven't really looked at what this does yet. It looks like Blood Rush gains the effect of every rune, so wow, that's interesting. Well, at full life, your healing from skills is added to your maximum life for 45 seconds up to 100% more. Really? Okay, so this is the blood set apparently. And your life spending abilities deal 3,300% increased damage, but cost twice as much life. Your healing from skills is increased. So you're sacrificing more life, but you are also healing more. So you want to make sure you have your drain skills and things like that on that one. That's neat. That's neat. I'm not sure what skills I would work with that. I mean, this set, the Summoner set, is very obvious in what you need. I mean, it lists several skills by name: Army of the Dead, and Skeletal Mage. So, and you know that if you're going to build with those, obviously you're going to need something like Frailty with the increased minion damage. So this set is more deliberate on what skills you're using, like a lot of the other sets that other characters have. Whereas Inarius and Trag'oul's, these appear to be more freeform sets. Although Trag'oul's is specifically for your blood skills, but almost every skill has a blood variant. So it seems like there's a lot of wiggle room there. I'll have to look into them, try and finish them, try and build them, see how they feel. That's it. That's where I'm at. That's my Necromancer and how I'm feeling with him. It's been a pretty good ride so far. I'm definitely going to go back to these two weapons as I do like them more. At least with the current build. The survivability is just so much better right now. So, hopefully you've enjoyed it. I will try and do some more updates as I move forward and maybe collect some more sets and, you know, see how I feel about things. If I find some new legendary items that maybe change the way the build works, and I can talk about that. But again, this was kind of a, you know what, oh crap, I'm having problems recording and I've been wanting to put out something else. I better at least get something done for now. So, alright, thanks again, guys. I look forward to seeing you again. I got my fingers crossed. I see you again. Take care.